They warned us about it 35 years ago. They told us about adrenochrome. People sitting in government around the world, carving the world up. Men saying, you take Panama, you take Venezuela, you take this. They were screaming into the wind. Cathy was trapped inside the White House and the Pentagon, being passed around like a sex toy. And when she had a little girl, they did the same to her as well. Bush Sr., that dirty old pedo. Oh, are you offended? This broadcast is not for snowflakes, so best you leave, Poppet. David Icke, same thing, been standing up, screaming into the wind all these years. Some of you turned away, but now more and more of you are looking, thinking, I think this bloke's got something to say here. You best be right. David Icke, welcome, sir. How are you?
I'm good, mate. Thank you.
Cathy O'Brien, how are you, my love?
I'm great. I'm happy to be here.
So good to have you. Right, David, we're going to go straight to a place that lots of people don't talk about, but we're going to talk about it here. Years and years and years ago, my love, you were on the Terry Wogan show. You were already coming out as a spiritual being, a person with great awareness of knowledge. People completely misunderstood you and mocked you because they said, oh, David Icke thinks he's God. Could you please address that so we can just smush it and move on and everyone can come alongside you now at this time of 2026? The floor is yours, David.
Well, it's a long story. I'll try to keep it as short as I can. Some very strange things were happening to me and around me, if you might call esoteric things. And it was going on through 1989 into 1990. I came across a psychic, professional psychic by synchronistic means, chance, if you like. And I went to see her for one reason only, and that was to see if she would pick up these strange things that were happening around me, which I talk about in the books. And what came out of it was her saying that I'm being told you're going to go out on a world stage and reveal great secrets. One man cannot change the world, but one man can communicate the message that will change the world, was one of the things I remember. And at the time, I'm working for the BBC, and I'm a national spokesman for the British Green Party for a short time. And it sounded, obviously, extraordinarily, what's this lady talking about? But somewhere in here was saying, you've got to go with this. This is real. You've got to go with it. And from the moment that I left her front room where it all happened, my life became this extraordinarily synchronistic sequence of being led to information that and deeper and deeper in the rabbit hole to present day. But what happened in, when was it now? Late 1990 and into 1991 is that suddenly I became really focused on, I've got to go to Peru, and it came about. I jumped on a plane to Peru, and that's a lot of stories in there of what happened. But it kind of culminated on a hill near a place called Siyustani, which is said to be an ancient Inca site. I think it goes back further. And I was booked into a hotel by a guide, a Peruvian guide, and it was called the Siyustani Hotel. And there's pictures of this. It was in Cuzco. No, not Cuzco, Puno, near Lake Titicaca. And I was looking all around this hotel at pictures on the wall of Siyustani, after which the hotel was named. So long story short, I headed out there, and it was a beautiful place. But I'd hired this kind of taxi, this van taxi that they have in Peru, and with a driver and this Peruvian guide. And I walked around Siustani for a short time, about an hour, and it was beautiful, really beautiful. But I, I didn't feel in what I experienced the urgency I had to go. So I get back in the taxi van and we're driving away. We get a little way down the road, and I'm looking at this hill and just daydreaming, which I do most of the time. And as I looked at this hill, all I could hear in my head was, "Come to me, come to me, come to me." At which point you think, okay, it was it was easier presenting the sport for the BBC. What's happened to me? But anyway, I said, "Stop the van," and I went up this mound, this hill, to the top. And I said to them, "I'll only be a few minutes." So I thought I would be, but I wasn't. I was well over an hour, because an extraordinary thing unfolded, in which I talk about it in the books. I've talked about it in other places. I don't want to go on too long about it here, because there's other things to talk about. But basically, I was hit by an energy that went through me into the ground, and another energy was coming the other way, and it was like literally being plugged into the mains. And my body was shaking for about 45 minutes, and things changed after that. I came back to Britain, and I started to well, I'll tell you how I've described it. You know, if you're getting on with your life and you're living apparently a normal life, but you're living in a kind of bubble, perceptual bubble, and then someone comes along, doesn't say anything to you, mind, and pops the bubble, and suddenly information, concepts were pouring into my conscious mind. And it was like, I've described it as like when you press too many keys on the computer, and the computer says, "I can't process all this information, I'm freezing," okay? And that's basically what happened to me for about 3 months. And in the middle of this, I go on the Wogan Show, which was a live and very massively watched program. It was massively watched that night because of what had been in the media in the run up to it about what was happening to me. That Icke man has gone very strange. And what I'm trying to do in this 3 months is try to grasp what the hell is happening to me. And among these concepts was the fact that we're basically all an expression of one infinite state of consciousness. We're unique expressions of that infinite consciousness. And if you want to call that consciousness God, I mean, I don't anymore for a very long time, but if you want to call it God, then we are sons and daughters of God. We are expressions of that consciousness. And that's what I was trying to get across. But of course, I'm in the middle of this extraordinary perceptual consciousness transformation, and it was later that the whole thing settled down, and I was able to see it in a more expanded way. But after the 3 months ended, it was like the computer unfroze after about 3 months of this, by which time I burned every bridge to my previous life. That Icke's gone mad. He's crazy. He's a lunatic. But what happened is the computer basically unfroze, and people were coming up to me and saying, people I knew, they were saying, "I thought you'd supposed to have gone mad, mate. You're just like the bloke I used to know." And I appeared to be outwardly, but I wasn't, because I was now seeing the world in a completely different way. And from that point onwards, I followed the synchronicity of life, led me to Cathy, and led me to enormous amounts of information as I've gone deeper and deeper in the rabbit hole. And I've written a stream of books as a result. And I think the thing you need, and Cathy will confirm this, the thing you need if you are going to explore beyond the tiny limits of the norm, you need to not care what other people think about you and say about you. Because if you do, you're going to start editing yourself and censoring yourself in terms of what you say. And I've never done that. I've worked on the principle that I'm not going to believe everything I'm told just because I'm told it, but I am going to give it a chance, unless I know through previous research that it's not true. I'm going to give it a chance to make its case. And when you do that outside of the norms, you find that the world is a very, very, very different place to the one you thought you were living in.
Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a deep awakening at that time. And, you know, I know that you went through the worst of public ridicule. And if you're someone's poster child for that and how to survive it, then thank you very much. Because like you said, anyone that cares what one person thinks, you know, they literally own a piece of your soul. And it's where we have to be at this stage.
Yeah, but that's an interesting point, because I went through historic levels of ridicule. I mean, it was ridiculous. I couldn't walk down the street without being pointed out and laughed at. Going to a bar, forget it. But it gave me a wonderful gift. You know, I have this phrase: life often gives you your greatest gifts, brilliantly disguised as your worst nightmare. And what it did was clear me out, free me, given what I've just said, of the fear of what other people think, because they all seem to be laughing anyway. And you know, I just reached the point where I thought, whatever's thrown at me, I'm going for this because it feels right, and I'm still going for it now.
Doing brilliantly. And I heard you the other day on a broadcast with someone saying that you're still learning, and that it's such the right thing to say. We never stop learning or evolving
Absolutely.
or growing. Cathy, let's come to you. So you guys have known of each other for these 35 years. And Cathy, for those that have never seen you before, mostly, of course, on this channel at my conference, which David's also speaking at this year in England, September 2026. So excited. But Cathy, can you give us, although it's difficult to do, a synopsis of what happened to you, how the CIA abused you, and ultimately how you and David became embroiled in each other's lives, and what he did to highlight you?
Well, I'm a CIA MK Ultra mind control survivor. I was deep in the Washington, D.C. swamp among perpetrators who steal elections, who fund their globalist agenda with drug and human trafficking across open borders, and who are using mind control to usher in what Adolf Hitler, George Bush, Joe Biden, and handful of self-appointed, self-anointed global leaders term New World Order. They might call it the Great Reset, whatever it is. It's a slave society agenda. And our mental capacities are under attack as a means of a spiritual warfare. Deep in the swamp among these perpetrators, I can assure you they are dark, negative energy force. They are not like us. They do not like us. And their greatest fear is the strength of the human spirit and the infinite power of love. Because when we remember who we are and why we're here, we have the ability to align with the divine within. We have the ability to gather that strength of the human spirit and stand up and live our life's purpose. No matter the ridicule, no matter what anybody else has to say, we stand strong in that purpose. And when we stand strong in that purpose, we bring an important piece of our individual puzzle to the table, our truth to the table. And when everyone brings that piece of the puzzle to the table, the big picture comes into view. We see it all. In other words, it's like our light shines so bright, it exposes everything in the darkness and reveals it all. That's what they fear the most. They fear that people will experience something like what David just described and choose to live their life's purpose, to align with that, to go with that, to be open to all possibility, to understand there's so much more to this life than we realize. It's our victory. It's our saving grace. It's what we're born for. It's an evolutionary time we're living. But right now, and for generations now, we have all been bombarded with mind control. The formula for mind control came into the US through Project Paperclip. When we imported the Nazi and fascist scientists into the US, with them came the formula for mind control. That formula is the same, whether it's of an individual, a nation, a classroom, a military of the world. Trauma is the basis of it. And mind control is a sliding scale from the torturous, robotic, MK Ultra mind control I experienced on the White House Pentagon level to information control. Because we all formulate our thoughts, our opinions, and ultimately our actions based on what we know. We need to know our knowledge base has been deliberately altered a long, long time. Pertinent information on our birthright facts have been suppressed for generations. We have a right to know and a need to know this information, but knowledge is our defense against mind control. It is truth that makes us free. When we have our free thought, free will, soul expression, when we have that soul expression, we have discernment of truth. We have compassion for each other. We have the ability to align with the divine within, to gather that strength of spirit and the infinite power of love and live life the way that it's intended to be lived. And this is our time. It's our time to shine, but it takes people waking up. They've got to wake up to realize we've been manipulated. Our information has been manipulated, and there's so much more to learn. I was talking with my daughter Kelly the other day, and she was saying, yeah, the Great Awakening is real. People are waking up, but they sure have a long way to go to catch up. And they do. And they got a lot to learn. Got to find out where all these roots of corruption are planted. David and I have been exposing them for 35 years, so there's a good roadmap right there people can use to uproot those roots of corruption. And ultimately, in that process, we gain knowledge that is our defense against mind control going forward. We evolve with that knowledge. We evolve with this spiritual awakening. It's an amazing time to be alive, and I continue to speak out. I have for over 35 years on MK Ultra mind control and healing from it, because we have been blessed with resiliency of body, mind, and spirit. When we heal from within ourselves, we have it all. We have the victory. We can no longer be manipulated. We can no longer fall prey. It's like once you know the magic trick, the spell is broken. And it's the same with mind control. So we understand that, we're going to be able to reclaim our free thought and reclaim ultimately our soul expression. Our humanity's been under attack for generations. It's been eroded through especially child sexual abuse, because it had been found in Himmler research. There's no trauma more horrific on the human mind than sexual abuse of a child prior to age 5 while the brain is still forming. So this pedophile agenda we're seeing is a mind control agenda. When we understand that, we start to see how child sex trafficking has become one of the most lucrative businesses in the world, funding this globalist agenda that is eroding our humanity through mind control in order to have us at a low vibration like they are, to have us at a low vibration with artificial intelligence. But we've got the victory within. We've got the high vibration. We've got it all when we reclaim our free thought and live the love we are. So how amazing that I was able to heal and reclaim that, to be able to move in the synchronicity, to be able to move in that divine flow and meet David in that process so early on, and know that there were others out there bringing this important truth to light so that people could evolve with our birthright knowledge that we had forgotten. I'm so grateful to David for all that he's been and done, and the friendship that he's been, the light that he has been to this world, and the fact that he too, the ridicule doesn't matter when you're living your life's purpose and know your own truth it makes it easy to understand other people are all on their own learning path, and they may not be as far down their path, so we just light the way and let them be, and keep living purpose. It's all any of us can do.
So true. Before we come back to David, I want to highlight this great book. It's The Transformation of America. It is one of the single most important books that was ever written. The first half of the book is your beautiful husband, Mark Phillips, who has passed on in recent years. But this is the man who was at the highest level of national security in America, who heard about you and your little girl being trafficked in one of the MK Ultra marriages, forced marriage with a handler, etc. It's all in here. And this man couldn't live with himself knowing there was a young mother and her little girl being used and abused in the most unimaginable ways and passed around to global leaders, everyone, all those dirty, filthy bastards. Yes, all of them, they're not getting away with it. So Mark rescued Cathy, and Cathy was in a very zombified state. And the beauty of this book for me, that the high element of her healing was that as she began to fall naturally in love with Mark, she began to reclaim her memories. She healed from the most incredibly heinous, dark MK Ultra programming that was supposed to leave her void of feelings. She was abused in every way by filthy women as well. Hillary Clinton allegedly, although it's not alleged, it's true. That dirty cow, you dirty cow. We got to call them out, not be afraid of it. They deserve it. They deserve to be shamed and named, those filthy monsters. And this book, the second half, is your story. After Mark is explaining national security, it is just incredible. So I wanted to highlight that. And I'm not sure, David, if this was how you found Cathy through her book, but please, over to you, sir.
Well, it found me. It found me because I had an invitation to speak in America, in Denver, Colorado, at a conference. And it was the first time I was going to speak on these subjects in the United States. And I'd been up to Scotland, quite a while before, and I'd met a guy in Scotland, and we had a chat, and we were basically on the same page on many, many things. And then I'm sitting at home, and this is a long time after I met him, and suddenly this package arrives through the letterbox, and I opened it, and there is a book called Transformation of America. This is 3 weeks before I'm going to the conference in Denver, Colorado. And I didn't know who the other speakers were. I just know that I was going, that's all I knew. And I started reading this book. And immediately I thought, this needs some serious focus. So I went up to the bedroom, and I sat on the bed, and I read it from cover to cover in one go. It was extraordinary. But again, you can read Transformation of America, and you can go, oh, come on, you're having a laugh. Or you can say, I'm going to give this a chance to make its case. And as my research from then on continued, it absolutely did make its case. And then I go off to the conference in Denver, and who's there? You have little tables where you put your books on and stuff. And the table next to mine, there was Cathy O'Brien and Mark Phillips. And I thought, oh, God, I've just read your book. And from then on, we've kept in touch. And I just want to say, too, that what Cathy has done in highlighting mind control, and Mark Phillips, before he left us, was absolutely fantastic and pivotal. And, this is something I've been trying to get across over the years. What is the foundation of human control? People talk about mind control, and they think, oh, well, that's a bit complicated and that's a bit far out and it's Manchurian candidates. What is mind control? It's getting someone to believe and behave the way you want them to. That's it. And on that basis, much of the human race, most of the human race, the great majority of the human race is under forms of mind control because they're under forms of perceptual control. Now, if you want someone to behave a certain way and react a certain way, then you've got to get their perceptions, because we act as we do and we behave as we do because we perceive as we do. This is what censorship is all about. You know, if you want control of someone's perception, then where do we get our perceptions from? We get them from information that we come across, everything from a news bulletin to a Facebook post to a personal experience. And we form our perceptions from that. And what this network, this global cult, as I call it, is seeking to do is control perception by controlling the information that you receive to form your perceptions. This is why they censored. I mean, when I was calling out the COVID hoax in 2020, in the spring of 2020, and pointing out what the coming vaccination was all about, I was cleared off the entirety of social media at that time. And it was because I was saying something that was saying to people, don't believe me just because I'm saying it, but have a look, because there's another way of looking at what's happening in this COVID situation than they're telling you, which of course now we absolutely know is true. And they cleared me off social media. They basically banned me from any mainstream media in Britain almost overnight, because I was saying to people, there's another way of looking at this. They don't want that. They want people to perceive everything from their perspective, what they want us to believe and how they want us to see it. And so mind control is not some, far out stuff that's kind of not impacting on people's lives. Mind control is the very foundation of human control, because without that, you wouldn't have human control.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. And, as we go through the timelines and, before the last 35 years, which is where you guys warned us, you told us, again, you were screaming into the wind, telling us the world is corrupt, there's MK Ultra happening. So before Cathy was unfortunately forced into the role from her pedo dad making child porn, as lots of children sadly go through, and then it being picked up by the CIA that said, we're either going to arrest you or we're going to keep showing you how to groom Cathy the way we want her to be groomed. And then Cathy was then put through the ritualistic abuse in the White House, Pentagon, to the global leaders too. And with that, she was given the title presidential model. Now, a person that happened to have that same moniker was also Marilyn Monroe. That's correct, isn't it, Cathy?
Yes, it is. And Maggie Trudeau was another presidential model. There's been many. It's just those that are used on that particular level. The formula for MK Ultra mind control is multi-generational when it comes into the sub-project Monarch. And that's because it was found in Himmler research that any abuse-based, knowledge-based, or belief system becomes autogenic in the brain, and it's passed down generation to generation. And when we have that understanding of our mind-brain function, we start to understand how slowly we have been manipulated to start accepting the pedophile agenda, to accept this globalist agenda, to accept the perceptions that they were getting us to form, so that we always look outside ourselves to big government, big pharma, big tech, big cult religion to tell us how to live our lives. When in fact, of course, we've been blessed with that within us all along. But we're being misled very deliberately, and it's been done through the generations. The bloodline families, again, using that generational aspect of what's being passed down. Well, information that's passed down generationally, if it's information that's suppressed, like our birthright to healing from within, the capacities that we have within our brain for heightened intuitions and capabilities, that we can heal our own bodies, that we have resiliency of body, mind, and spirit. That information is suppressed for generations, then it becomes forgotten. It's not lost, it's not gone. We just need to remember that we have these capabilities. So the formula for mind control that has been used on the global population now for generations is MK Ultra Mind Control Project Monarch. For people who don't want to believe in mind control, or who don't want to believe in MK Ultra, the documents have now been fully released, unredacted, for a year now. There's thousands of pages on MK Ultra, exactly where it was done, how it was done. All the validation is right there. So, anybody who didn't want to believe, that it's there. And it's like people who didn't want to believe Transformation of America back in 1995, when every word in it was validated by clean members of intelligence and law enforcement, so much so that national security was invoked on it. But still, people didn't want to believe it. And many that did started thinking it was like prophetic, because I named who was going to be placed in the office of president. Now you look back on it, and it's like a history book. It all happened. It is validated. Time proved it. The thing is that this generational effect is something that we all need to overcome. It's up to each and every one of us to go within ourselves and break that chain so that we can expand our mind, to embrace all possibility, to embrace the magnitude of what this life has to offer. Not only do we need to heal from the past, we need to move forward in light of the capacities that we have. Re-embrace those. People wonder why I smile. They ask me all the time, how can you smile after all the torture and hell that you've been through? And it's because I know the truth. I know the truth of our own power. I know the truth of our victory, and it's within us, and it's inevitable, and it's just a matter of us remembering and reclaiming that victory. So I share that message, that not only is healing possible and absolute, no matter what happens to us in life, it's not who we are. Who we are is still within us, divinely protected, ready to be freed. We consciously free that. We have that ability. Each and every one of us has that within us. And I'm so happy to bring that message forward, along with the message in my latest book, Align with the Divine, which opens the mind to those possibilities, those capabilities that we have, so that each and every one of us can have our moment on the mountain, like what David described, and having that realization, his whole life opening up into purpose. That's for us all. It's within us all, and we have these capabilities. We just need to remember them, and it begins with understanding mind control, understanding MK Ultra, especially Project Monarch, the generational effects. Break that chain, and let's start living free.
Amazing. David, this book that you've recently released, I got an early copy, brag, brag. It is so incredible. It is just more than your 35 years. There's just so much in here. And at the beginning, it's why and how we're in this matrix simulation environment, which you explained so brilliantly, which what we're discussing here seems so doom and gloom. It's already been happening. People have already been living in it. And at the end of the book, David, you give the tools and the wherewithal to come through it, to escape, to release, to set forth a much stronger life. And one of the things, when you first got on camera today, you two, after not seeing each other for a while, you were both saying we are looking at the same players, their bloodlines, the same historical families, always running into marrying, into breeding. David, you've spoken a lot about the Luciferian satanic blood cult situation. Could you give us, in your opinion, where we truly are with that in 2026?
Well, it's basically running the direction of travel in the world, if we don't wake up to the fact that that's what's happening. And I was listening to Cathy there, and things I've come across myself over the years is how people who are under mind control can be mind controlled to mind control other people. It becomes a self-perpetuating kind of network, if you like. And what's really struck me, especially since COVID, is how the mind control of the masses mirrors what I've learned about MK Ultra and such other mind control programs. They work the same way. After meeting Cathy and reading her book, I read it in 1996, just before this conference. And as I've kind of researched wider and wider and wider on this, what I learned about MK Ultra Project Monarch mind control techniques, I'm watching the COVID hoax unfold, and I'm seeing exactly the same techniques being used on the general population. And if you break it down, this whole concept of mind controlling people to mind control other people is exactly the situation among the general population. We have a situation where people have a belief system, and as I've said many times over the years, this cabal doesn't care what you believe, so long as you believe it unquestioningly and rigidly, because then they gotcha. Why? Because if you look at religious beliefs and political ideologies and beliefs, they are basically prisons of the mind, because they limit you going off into these infinite realms of possibility and insight, because once you go through the walls of your belief system, whatever it is, religious, political, cultural, whatever, you are not going to be able to sustain your belief anymore, because what you learn in the expanded infinity of possibility is going to make those walls crumble. And so the other thing about having these rigid belief systems is that they can then be played off against each other through religious tussles, political tussles, to divide and rule the target population. And we shouldn't forget that we're talking about a population we're told now is 8 billion plus, but the number of people in full knowledge who are driving the direction of society is tiny by comparison. Because even most of this cult, it's compartmentalized, so most of them don't know the big picture. It's a relatively few that know how it all fits together. And as a result of that, the pure mathematics tell you something. It shouldn't be possible. How can a few control the many? And what happens when you kind of make these points about how few people it takes to control a human society? People immediately respond by saying, it's not possible. That's ridiculous. How could they do that? Unfortunately, through mind control, perceptual control, it's relatively straightforward, because you break up your target population into rigid belief systems, which are not to be questioned. And then you play the belief systems off against each other to divide and rule. So we're too busy, so busy fighting each other that we don't look up and see that the same hand is holding the strings attached to everybody. And, you have to divide the population. And if you don't control them perceptually, you can't do that. And, what people believe is entirely up to them. It's none of my business. But we have this trait where what different beliefs believe have to be imposed upon everyone else. So, all these different religions tell you that they've got the truth about, quote, God, and others says, oh no, I've got the truth. You haven't got the truth, and they're tussling for dominance, and political beliefs, left and right, tussling for dominance. And if we just took a breath, realized that beyond the programming of self-identity, we're actually all expressions of the same consciousness, and that we're all under or in the gun sights of the same force seeking to manipulate us, then we might just put down the fault lines of divide and rule, first of all, and come together in some kind of unity to face the threat that affects us all. And we might just realize that actually there is other possibilities beyond your rigid belief system walls of perception. And if we can, people say, what's the solution? Well, I'm less interested in solutions, because from what I've observed is solutions tend to lead to more problems in need of more solutions. My approach is to identify what is the cause of the problem. And if you remove the cause of the problem must disappear. It can't continue. It can't manifest if its cause is gone. And the cause is this falling for rigid, unquestioned belief systems, prisons of the mind, and then seeking to have your belief system dominate other belief systems. And without that, the few can't control the many. And if we could just be at peace with other people having different ways of seeing the world than we do, and respect that right, then maybe the inter-belief system war within humanity could end, and we could all focus on what affects us all. Because while this divide and rule is going on, and while we're focused on each other, it's the Muslims, it's the Christians, it's the Jews, then alongside that diversion, the control system, which is meant to be a digital AI dystopia, goes on apace. And in the end, it comes down to self-identity. Are we going to self-identify as a human, which is just a brief experience in a tiny band of frequency we call human? Or are we going to self-identify as being the consciousness that we are? Because in the end, not only is it about perception, although this comes into perception as well, it's about hijacking our self-identity. Because what they want to do is to get us to self-identify with the body, the race, the religion, the color, the income bracket, and see ourselves in those that myopia of self-identity. And while we do that, what does that do? It divides. But if we can redefine our self-identity and say, look, I'm not human. I'm having a brief human experience. What I am eternally is an expression of consciousness. consciousness that is way, way beyond this world, this reality. If only we would allow that ourselves to expand into that level of awareness and insight. And when you do, and this is what we call awakening, what is awakening? It's awakening from the programmed sense of self and the programmed sense of the world into a much more expanded panoramic view of both. That's what we call awakening, and that's what they want to stop. But they can't stop it if we will just open our minds, because my experience is that to find answers to the big questions, you have to ask them. You have to want to pursue the answers to those big questions. And most people don't. They're so caught in the myopia of daily life that the big questions like, who am I? What am I really? What is this reality? Who actually is running things, and to what end? These big questions, which more and more people are asking, which is fantastic. But these are the big questions, when you seriously want to pursue them, that bring towards you synchronistically the answers to those questions.
That's so beautiful on so many different levels. You know, you talked about left and right, and as far as I truly believe, like, and everyone out there, there's no friggin' left, there's no friggin' right, but at the top there's a body of monsters called the World Economic Forum, and they are the ones running the banks, running everything. Okay, so outside of the fact that we are pure consciousness, but we're living inside these meat suits, these vessels right now, in order to get around and see this, it's this kind of divine, glorious opportunity to be or witness the kind of the good against evil, or you know, or those kinds of functions. When people, as you say, keep, you know, getting caught up in the myopia, the small, the minutiae, the one of the fundamental issues I see is that the ego obviously is leading everything. Humans in general have a problem with being wrong. It's okay to be wrong. You know what I mean? It's just okay, and people need to give themselves more freedom and more permission to be wrong. So you can look like an arse. I can't imagine just how many times I've looked like a total arse. Okay, look at you, David. Like you said, you went through the ultimate ridicule. Cathy O'Brien screaming into the wind, saying these things happened to me by the crime families, the Clintons, the Obamas, the Bushes, you know, the dead ones. And no one believed her, and she had to keep speaking out until something happened. Something started to collapse. And I believe there's been this occult weaponry used against humanity, spelling, occult magic, for example. And as things have started to be taken down and they're crumbling, more light is coming into all of us, more power, more strength, more ability to feel the consciousness that we are, to hear people like you, David, who's been speaking so long, but finally something's happening, something is opening up in people. And that's why, again, your book is so important. Giving, look, there's the yellow brick road. How many times in MK Ultra have we heard about that? How many times have we been positioned to listen to elements of the Wizard of Oz, that Cathy herself was abused, being passed from one president or whatever to another, given a little caption about the Wizard of Oz movie that she then went to the next person that was going to harm her and repeat that out to, right, Cathy? Let's talk a little bit about that, some of the manipulations that they used, and still today, with little girls like you.
Well, the Wizard of Oz was a theme program that was powerful. But, you know, when we all consider that, pull aside the wizard's curtain, we see it's just one guy pulling levers to make himself look like the great and powerful Oz, when in fact, that's what these global perpetrators are doing to make themselves look like they're bigger than they are. Is they're pulling those levers. They're holding all the strings over the media that's given them voice and information, and dividing the people so that we don't talk about the truth and bring pieces of the puzzle together. I think it was absolutely brilliant how you described the divisions, David, and it's so true. And by uniting It's not that we all need to change our beliefs and accept each other's and push ours. And once everybody believes like we do, we'll be united. No, we all need to bring our own piece of the puzzle to the table, because when we have those unique pieces of the puzzle is when the big picture comes into focus. So we need to reframe what we're thinking on division. Look what was done with mind control masked as a virus. The families were especially attacked, where you wear this mask or grandma will die, and and all that they did was absolutely horrific. Repetition is the most basic form of mind control. Some fell prey to it and went for it full bore, and others were thinking free. Like, I never complied with one thing that they put out there. I recognized what they were doing immediately and didn't comply. Masks are used in MK Ultra to inhibit oxygen to the brain necessary for critical analysis free thought. They depersonalize, they cause identity disorders, they muffle voices, So I didn't comply. And those who knew what I knew were saying, no, don't comply with it. And the ones who were buying into the program had that program screaming in their ear and couldn't even hear the logic of what was being said. And the division occurred. When we look back on it, it was all love. It was concern for each other. And when we realized that, we said, oh, they played us by love. They divided us by that. Ultimately, that's what they're doing with religion too. Isn't that what religion is supposed to be for, is love? But, here we are warring over religions. There's so many different ways to divide. And when we bring the pieces of the puzzle to the table, it's so powerful. And it's like when I was healing from MK Ultra mind control, Mark Phillips told me, he said that I needed to heal first in order to have something to give in a relationship. And wouldn't really have anything to do with me until I healed, which was just brilliant for so many reasons. For one, if I hadn't healed first, I could have been in a moment of passion and had a flashback and crossed over and ended up it was something horrific taking the relationship, like happens with whenever people don't deal with their own issues, they bring them into the relationship and mess things up, So we need to clear that out first. He was so right. And not only that, but it made me really strong in who I am, because when people endure trauma, they're more suggestible. And Mark didn't want me to be like him. He wanted me to be like me. He had enough, dealing with his own self without having to have two. So he wanted me to be me, which is really, really important. And whoa, we had differences. Definitely had differences. And they were beautiful because it made us stronger when we converged together. It gave us a more expansive capability to accomplish our goal of bringing necessary, pertinent truth to light on mind control. So it made us stronger. The differences were. And we didn't fight about those differences. We were too busy living our life's purpose. So one of us was going to maybe learn something. It was usually me, but regardless, we both were learning something. And it was absolutely beautiful and powerful. If we could do that here now, that would be important. It would be so important to understand, yes, we've been divided by religion. We have been, religion has been infiltrated by satanic occultism. It was found in Himmler research that the second most horrific thing on the human mind is the blood traumas of satanic ritual abuse. So that became a very strong theme in MK Ultra mind control. My primary mind control programmer, Lieutenant Colonel Michael Aquino, founder of the occult temple is set on the military bases, was using satanic means and blood traumas and horrific religious manipulation to manipulate my mind. And my deprogramming process, as Mark had taught me, deprogram the program. First, I heard the programming of that I was possessed, that I was evil, that I had this, allowed for this evil to come in, and that I had to carry out the satanic activity or whatever. Why was I being told that? Why didn't it just happen? Why did it? It's because it's mind control programming. So telling preachers who are just hell bent on casting out demons and all that aspect, I say, I'm not asking you to change your belief system. I'm asking you to factor in this important part of the equation. Satanists use mind control to stop people from being able to access their victory. Their darkness can't creep in on our light unless we believe it and allow for that to happen. They only have as much power as we give them or let them steal, and that's how it goes. So we can look at this whole satanic aspect and the difference there and realize, no, you keep your difference. I'm keeping mine. I know this truth. Put it together. Wow, we have a powerful combination of information that's bringing a big picture into focus. Same thing with David talking about the lizard aliens all these years, and what that has, the important information he's been able to bring forward with it. And that was never my experience with George Bush Sr. He set up an illusion. He set up a holographic thing. The mind control programming, I heard the voice. I know exactly how it was set up, what was being done. Why that theme? Why was that one used? It's because it's the most primitive fear in the human mind. We have a fear of reptiles. It's even in the Bible. We got a crossover on the alien religious theme with the snake. There we got the reptile evil that's there. Regardless of how all these perceptions are manipulated, the fact is that mind control was being used with that theme to make us feel helpless, as though there's nothing we can do. It's beyond our realm to affect. Actually, it's all within our realm to affect. When we remember that we have all the power, we have the truth. We need to know the truth. We need to know the whole truth, the complete truth, all the levels of it, all the dimensions of it, all these directions of it. And so people would say, well, David says this. Why do you say that? And it's because, what if we're both right? What if this is just part of bringing together difference so that we can all see a bigger picture and know the truth, that ultimately we have all the power, we have nothing to fear, and we don't need to be manipulated anymore. We have pulled back that curtain, we have exposed the manipulation on us all, and it can't happen anymore. Once we know the truth, we're free from it. The spell is broken.
Bloody hell, Cathy, that was amazing. You're just on fire. I love it. Before we come back to David, we talk about the same playbook, the same generational bloodline families, the same bloody people. Haven't they died yet? Let's go back to Aquino. You mentioned earlier with me before David joined us, what is happening with the Shirley Clarke cold-blooded murder, shot in the neck in front of people, right? And who is on that board? Go ahead, what you told me earlier with Aquino and that connection. And let's talk about who Aquino is, apart from being hideously ugly.
Yeah, for sure that. It's just horrifically evil what he did. He graduated beyond Anton LaVey and took all the satanic German influences, made a powerful form of mind control. And he even wrote the book on it. He went to the psychological warfare division. He studied there on how to manipulate minds. He wrote the book on it, Mind War. His Mind War was written in 1980. It was written with a mentor of his and a cohort of his, General Vallely. This general, and I just think everybody needs to research this for themselves, because I was looking into the Turning Point USA, the infiltration potential. It had to have been infiltrated. What was going on? Why was Charlie Kirk assassinated? Assassinations occur when someone's not complying. So what was it all about? There's so much psychological warfare that was going on with this. A whole generation of conservative youth were traumatized, seeing that was their Kennedy headshot. It was their trauma. Why was this done? And then when I looked and I saw General Vallely on the board of Turning Point USA as an advisor, why would someone who's so satanically rooted in absolutely rooted in mind control on a board of something um, like Turning Point USA, where is this a piece of the puzzle in the Charlie Kirk assassination? It's evil by any other name, and it's something that needs to be looked at. But we've got all these little pieces of the puzzle that we've got to examine in order to understand what in the world is going on so that we can stop this from happening, so we can stop history from repeating itself, so that we don't have another national global trauma of another leader headshot in front of all of us. You know, we don't need that kind of traumatic influence anymore. And even when people are onto it and realize it, we've got to all come together in order to stop it. We have to evolve as humanity in order to bring this forward. But ultimately, we need all the pieces of the puzzle. We need the truth. We need to understand that we share this planet with a very dark, negative energy force. They do not like us. They are not like us. And it doesn't matter what we call them. They don't belong meddling in our brilliant minds and lives anymore.
David.
Well, I think Turning Point USA is a definitely the global cult behind it. And I think it's an extraordinarily manipulative operation. And it may be that Charlie Kirk was no longer complying with where it was being taken and what its views of various things were, and that he was taken out. But I think also I think it's very instructive. Cathy mentioned it a few minutes ago about trauma being something that makes people suggestible. Now, we're back to the theme I mentioned earlier of mind control being played on the masses in pretty much the same way that it's played on individuals. And if you traumatize a child or someone you're targeting for mind control, then the compartments start to, the alters start to form, and you've got this broken up, fractured mind to program with whatever you want them to do. And just look at the world. Look at the world year after year after year after year. There's endless ways that the population globally is being traumatized. And, you know, as Cathy said, you know, anyone that believed in Turning Point USA or believed in Charlie Kirk, they would have gone through tremendous trauma as a result of what happened to him. And therefore, they become suggestible. Therefore, the population becomes suggestible when you have a First World War, a Second World War, the horrors of what have gone on in Gaza since October the 7th. All these traumas make people suggestible. And, you know, I talked about two mind control, perception controlling techniques that I dubbed in the 1990s problem, reaction, solution, and the totalitarian tiptoe. But problem, reaction, solution is mind control. It's making something happen, a traumatic thing overwhelmingly happen, the population reacting to the problem in a way that is emotionally distraught or fearful, and then those who've created the problem covertly and blame someone else for it got that reaction, that emotional reaction of trauma, do something, then openly offer the solutions to the problems they have covertly created. And whenever you see the answers to or the solutions to the problems, they're always the same, going in the same direction. The centralization of global power and censorship overwhelmingly, which is exactly the direction of travel that we're being taken. And if you look at Satanism, basically it inverts everything. It's an inversion of life. It's kind of interesting that the word evil is live written backwards, because it is an inversion of life, as it really should be. And so you look at inversions everywhere. And the great inversion I've already mentioned. Billions of people being manipulated and directed by a handful. Now, how is that possible? You know, tyranny, whether it's in the form of fascism or communism or whatever, is never imposed by fascists and communists and tyrants, because there's never enough of them. Tyranny is brought about by the mass of the population acquiescing to tyranny. And there are three types of people in the world, three basic types in relation to this. One is the first group that just does what authority tells it without question, often because it believes, bizarrely, given the evidence, that authority knows best and is benevolent and it wouldn't do anything to harm us. It looks upon us with favor. The second group is that which does not want to do what authority tells it, but is terrified of not doing it, terrified of not complying because it fears the consequences of not complying. Now, those two groups have been behind the imposition of every tyranny in history, every single one, because without them, the tyrants can't rule because there's not enough of them. And then you've got group number three, which is getting bigger, hallelujah. And that's the group that is researched enough, is streetwise enough, is has the sense of self-security and self-respect to make sure it becomes informed, and it can see why authority is telling them to do whatever it is at the time, and the reasons for it. And it says, I can see what you're doing. I can see why you want me to do it, but I ain't complying. I'm not going to do what you want me to do because I can see why you want me to do it. And that group has ended every tyranny in history. It often starts in small numbers, and then gradually grows. And then group number two, who doesn't want to do it but fears not doing it, a lot of them start to join this group, and eventually the numbers are reached where the tyranny is brought down. And then the sequence then starts again, it would seem. But it's giving your power away to authority for whatever reason, acquiescence or fear, acquiescence through fear of not acquiescing. That's the foundation of how it's done. And if we don't do that, removing the cause of the problem, then it can't be done. And the few can't control the many. And if you look through what is known human history anyway, and I think there's a lot more to know about history, Icke, it's what they tell us, you are looking at a common theme where the few have always controlled the many. Why? Because of the very psychological states I've just described. And if we're going to stop it at last, then we have to stop complying with our own enslavement. And and again, once you redefine your self-identity from I am a human and I've got 70 years and 10, and that's it, or I'm subject to the judgmental God, whichever one I believe in, then you see the world in a certain way, and you see authority in a certain way. But when you realize we're all consciousness, we are eternal expressions of consciousness that are actually exploring forever in all its infinite possibility, then you lose something very profound. You lose fear. You lose the fear of saying what you believe to be right and doing what you believe to be right. And so many people would like to behave otherwise. They would like to react otherwise, but they're in fear of doing so. Once you start to understand the nature of the true I, that fear dissipates and eventually disappears. You do what you believe to be right. You say what you believe to be right. Consequences will take care of themselves. Does it matter? Well, I'm an expression of infinite awareness, exploring forever. So not in the way you think it matters, no.
So beautiful, David, so profound, so many nuggets there. I know the marketing team behind me are going to be taking so much information and putting reels out, because sometimes there's a lot to take in, but when we get it again in small chunks, it's just really profound. And speaking of profound, you two are profound. You are so loved across the seas, and so valued for your information. And again, because you've been standing strong, you're not what I call pop-ups. We had so many pop-up people in COVID. We've got people now that take my information, your information, David, Cathy's information, and then throw it out as their own and go, follow me, and get all the follows and get all the funds. But you know, the information is getting out there. So I did want to say that I've done it for the 6th time in a row, brought the most incredible speakers together. And David, Icke, the joy and honor of you joining us this year at the Galactic Spiritual Informers Connection Conference, which is going to be September 10th, 11th and 12th. 2026, Eastbourne, East Sussex. I just want to go through the other incredible, amazing speakers that will be there. Profound people. If I can get my myself together here, let's go through the speakers. Also, there he is. There's the man. Now, David, look what I wrote here. David Icke doesn't whisper truth; he detonates it. How about that? Look how handsome you are in that picture, David. I love it.
Oh, yeah. It must be a misleading picture then.
It's great. It's perfect. His mind is a weapon, his research a shockwave, and his voice a catalyst for awakening on a global scale. And it's true. It's true. Billy Carson, love this man. Great researcher. Big fan of yours, David. He's met Cathy at the last event we had. He's a great researcher, groundbreaking. He's all about rich in human potential, but also done a lot of work on the Emerald tablets, the Anunnaki, and all kinds of things. There she is. There's our girl, the great, the one and only Cathy O'Brien, for more than 3 decades, sharing her personal experiences of MK Ultra. And if there was one person to look at as a survivor of MK Ultra, it is the great Cathy O'Brien. Here we have Praveen Mohan. I love him. I just came back from Thailand with him. He is exposing the hidden secrets and technology in the temples across our world. The hidden technology of the Vimyanas. They weren't just in India, they're in Cambodia, they're in Thailand. And Praveen Mohan, my friend, the beautiful Hindu monk, will be there again on stage in Eastbourne sharing more information. This man was kidnapped by the American military, going to the moon in 10 minutes. Oh yes, you don't think it's possible? Well, wake up, sunshine. NASA lied to you. This man has also been to Mars. Oh, that's possible too. Elon Musk needs a boot up the arse because he knows that Mars is full of military personnel globally. Nikki Allen, the angel communicator, the spiritual medium, the beautiful woman who brings a spiritual aspect of Galactic Spiritual Informers. She will be there too. Max Lowen, this woman was born into a diplomatic family in America, trafficked to Italy every summer under the Vatican, trafficked, seen tons of children trafficked, adrenochromed, murdered. Max Lowen will be there standing on stage again, giving her testimony. JP, the military insider, he's active duty in America. He's going on missions with the American government, the American military globally. He's been to Mars. He's been to the moon, where there are military bases. He's also been to a moon called Ganymede, where there is a military base and a spaceport. Ganymede is one of Jupiter's moons. Again, it's not a make-up. This is your reality. Guy Anderson, I love this guy. I think he's the greatest scholar of our time right now on Tartaria, on the great human reset. Yes, humanity was reset. There was genociding of billions. Yes, there was. What do you think the catacombs are? How'd you get 4 million skulls under there? You know, we've got to think about these things. Guy Anderson's bringing information. Here we are. There's me, Danny Henderson. I will be there too. I'll be your host, but also bringing my own information. So Galactic Spiritual Informers Connection, that we'll put the details of the website under here. And you want to see Cathy O'Brien and David Icke in the same room and doing Q&As live on stage, that's where you need to be. Now, Cathy,
that's a fantastic lineup.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I'm so excited.
I'm so excited to be there.
Line.
This is going to be wonderful.
Yes.
No, I'm been researching and I'm researching all of those subjects you talk about, all of them, Tartaria, all of them. And so there'll be a lot of great conversations between those people, and I'm sure, because I'll be fascinated to see what they have to say.
Oh, I'm so excited, David. So, Cathy, I know you need to go, but David, we've got to talk about Iconic, and we've got to talk about the movie that you're bringing out.
Okay.
So, Cathy, we'll say our tatty byes to you. Love you so much, my darling angel. So glad you were here today with David. Thank you, darling.
Absolutely wonderful. Love you too. Love you, David.
Yeah, I love you too. And I'll see you in September then.
I can't wait.
Brilliant.
It's been a long time.
It's been too long.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye, darling. See you later. Ah, the great Cathy O'Brien. Oh my God, what a legend she is. I love her so much. And you know, in our hotel, in my last conference for Galactic Spiritual Informers was just in North Carolina, America, in September of this last year, just a few weeks ago. And I made sure that my Cathy was on the same floor as me in the hotel. You know, we've known each other a while and we're close. And she is the most joyful little Bambi girl, skipping down, you know, the hallways, not remotely worried about her safety, because she's living the love she came to be. She's one of the most targeted people on the planet, given what she's put into the field, naming all the monstrous, murdering, satanic, Luciferian, genociding bastards. And yet she's just this peaceful, beautiful angel. I mean, she's just so amazing. So,
yeah, well, more than anything, she is the living proof that you can go through these horrors and come out the other side. And I think while it's the same with me, really, I'm like her, not exposing these people with hatred and vengeance, exposing them so that what they're doing can be brought to an end. But if you do it with vengeance and hatred, that very energy adds to the field. So I don't hate anybody. I don't hate all these people that are doing what they're doing. I just want to stop them doing it. And it's a very different approach. And, you know, Cathy is, I mean, she has every right to hate these people that did what they did to her, but she doesn't. But she does expose them, and that's what we're both trying to do.
So beautiful. Share with us Iconic, for those that don't know, and your beautiful sons, Gareth and Jamie, and the film that you have coming out very soon.
Yeah, we've got an X Spaces on Saturday evening, where a number of people that are involved in the film, that contribute to the film, are going to, you know, discuss it and discuss the subject. But it's a film called Beneath the Surface, and it's all about Satanism and mind control and the targeting of children. I've seen the film in its finished form. It's absolutely fantastic, and goes into some very deep areas, down deep in the rabbit hole. And it's going to be on iconic.com for free for 2 days on the 12th and 13th of January. We've done it in conjunction with people in the Netherlands as well, and there's going to be a premiere in the Netherlands over the weekend, and it is a subject that people really, they don't want to look at because it's too horrible, but the film is brilliantly done, and it will really expose the scale of what's going on, because that's one of the things that when I first met Cathy O'Brien in 1996 in Denver, Colorado, and I read her book, and then I started researching this whole subject of mind control, and I continued well after the millennium, just focusing on the techniques and how it was done. And like I said, once you realize what the techniques are, you see them being played on the general population. And what happens is when people hear about it, they first of all say it's too fantastic, it can't be true. But not only is it true and needs to be focused upon, it's vast in its scale. So, for instance, one expression of it, child abuse and Satanism, is the Epstein situation, the Epstein network. And there are certain times, even though it's global and vast and is absolutely a foundation feature of this whole global cult, the fact that this cult controls the political level and it controls the media level, it means that the cover-ups of what's actually going on can be extremely effective. But every now and again, something breaks, and what you see is not the entirety of the global satanic child abuse pedophilia network. You see one aspect of it coming to light, and they often try to isolate it and say, oh no, this is just one man or a rogue group, when actually it's part of a global operation. And so you've got the Epstein situation, which absolutely connects into Trump. Absolutely. You don't go to the lengths he has to stop the Epstein files in their entirety coming out if you've got nothing to hide, quite blatantly. Epstein called Trump his best friend for 10 years, at least 10 years. So Trump knew what was going on. And then we have in Britain, we have the Jimmy Savile situation, this BBC, quote, entertainer, who in the 1960s came to prominence as the new breed of what they call disc jockeys. And after he died in 2011, it all came out of what he was up to. Well, I say it all came out, not all of it came out. His historic levels of pedophilia came out, and a little bit of his Satanism. But what didn't come out is that Jimmy Savile was a procurer of children for the rich and famous. Now, this becomes extraordinarily relevant because from a book I published in 1997-98 called The Biggest Secret onwards, I started to come across more and more evidence of Savile's involvement. And part of it came from a lady who was a close friend of Princess Diana for 9 years before they eventually fell out, and was acknowledged as such by the mainstream media. And she told me, I've still got one of those two of those reel to reel audio tapes of what she said. She told me of the background of how appallingly Diana was treated by the royals. She was their brood mare, basically, and once she produced the heirs, she was out of the fold, eventually killed. And part of that was her description of the involvement in the royal family of Jimmy Savile. He was a close friend of Prince Philip until they fell out eventually, and was a close friend of now King Charles, Prince Charles then, right to the end of Savile's life. And then you realize, and this is in Savile's own words, that he was brought into the inner circle of the British royal family in the 1960s by Lord Mountbatten. Now, Lord Mountbatten was a known paedophile. I mean, there's documents have come to light from the FBI, which go and talk about him in that direction. But there are many other sources too. And so this disc jockey who just played discs on the radio and fronted up BBC entertainment shows, he was brought into the inner circle of the British royal family in the 1960s and basically stayed there till not long before the end of his life. And Princess Diana described to her friend, who described it to me, how Savile was brought in by Charles as a mediator between him and Diana when their marriage was breaking down. Of course, he was keeping on with Camilla Parker Bowles, now the quote queen, all the way through the relationship basically with Diana, because that was a genetic operation and nothing to do with love. And so you then had the story breaking about Savile. It was an ITV show about a year after he died, about his pedophilia, which this friend of Diana had told me about long before, that this is what he was involved in. And of course, unfortunately, she wouldn't say so publicly, and therefore, you know, I was stuck. But not that they would have believed me anyway. They all thought I was mad. But eventually, it did come out. And so, why is this guy in the inner circle of the British royal family, this paedophile, Satanist, and procurer of children for the rich and famous, including people like Ted Heath, the one-time British Prime Minister, who I named in The Biggest Secret as a Satanist stroke paedophile. And the passage was read to him in 1998 when the book was published by a journalist. And Heath just said, well, David Icke must be mad. And that was the end of it. He could have sued me to high heaven and took the book out of circulation, but that would have meant going to court and these things being presented. And of course, 17 years after that book was published, Wiltshire police did an investigation and decided into Heath, who was dead by then, and decided that if he was alive, then there was enough evidence to bring him in for questioning. Well, the people I've spoken to over the years, my God, there's enough evidence. But the point is that when the whole Savile thing broke, where was the media going to the British royal family and saying, what was this bloody guy doing in your inner circle all these years. Are you not going to explain yourselves? It was never done. It was just all covered up. And so this film, Beneath the Surface, is telling a profound truth about how this network works and who is ultimately orchestrating it. It's a fantastic movie.
Wow, wow, wow. You know, it's so important, isn't it? Like you said, you've had first-hand accounts, testimonies given to your ear, and they're the best ones. They really are. And it's important because there's a lot of people that, you know, build careers on espousing stories they've heard, but the fact that you are, you know, you've been given these kind of insights. And I wanted to address a couple of things that you said, because with Epstein, right? So, and no one often talks about like what he actually was as an individual, but just by happenstance, this happens to me a lot in my life, I happen to know somebody who was married into that family. Kevin and Ian Maxwell, Ghislaine's brothers. Her name is pronounced Ghislaine, not Ghislaine, Ghislaine. So Ghislaine is bringing Jeffrey to dinner, and she's meeting with members of the family, her brothers, etc. And they're very late, and they turn up. And my friend said it was the single most awkward dinner she'd ever had, because that freakoid Epstein kept whispering into Ghislaine's ear the whole time and looking straight at my friend. She said it was so weird, it made her skin crawl, okay? So that's one account of a sickly kind of bestial, and then of course we've come to understand what, you know, what and who he was, and yeah, why still hasn't everything come out in full, because obviously there are people there that don't want their information or themselves to be named. You also mentioned Savile. I interviewed a beautiful lady recently. Her name is Rebecca Barron. She came on my channel and she told me that she was selected by, and we know not all Freemasons are evil, of course we know that, but a Freemasonic group that would come to her house. There were loads of her brothers and sisters. They chose her and they took her and they groomed her, MK Ultra'd her and did awful things to her. One of the things being that they came in, there was 5 animals, cats and dogs, and they all had their throats slit in front of her. So this little 5-year-old girl, yeah, that's what they do. One of the things they do, you should wait till you meet Max Lowen under the Vatican, what they did to the kids there, what they do to the kids there. So Rebecca Barron has now witnessed these animals be slaughtered in front of her. Then she's taken to Jimmy Savile's flat, 5 years old, and he rapes her. And when he's done, he comes back in the room and he's wearing a scary satanic robe, and he stands over her and he says, "You killed those animals." And that's also what they do to break the spirit of the child, these psychopaths. And I believe Rebecca, and that's a first-hand account of the level of depravity of that freak, Savile. One of the worst stories I heard about him was one of his victims, we're not sure if he was, because apparently he was a necrophiliac, so he'd go to the hospital. He was,
yeah.
Right.
This lady told me about that. About his necrophilia. Yeah.
Yeah, horrendous. One of the victims of him was a person that wore a glass eye. He took that eye and he made it into a ring. Now there is another level of such dysfunction and unthinkable cruelty and horror, you know, and so, you know, these things came out. I remember when the information was coming out and people went up and kicked Jimmy Savile's tomb over, which was great. Ha ha on him. Do you remember that, when all the information, because he died, he didn't get held accountable for his atrocities?
No, he didn't. And that's another point, you see, is because it's very clear that the police knew what he was up to. They knew about his pedophilia. Now, if the police knew, then Special Branch knew, then the police operation protecting the royals knew, and you mean it was never mentioned to the royals what he was? Of course they knew, because you know, you look at these royal bloodline families. Well, you know, there's so much more to know about the relevance of bloodline and the genetic software, shall we say, that is passed on through these bloodlines. And again, you would have thought, well, you would have known that the police would have been saying what's going on here, and telling the royal family, oh, you really shouldn't be having anything to do with this guy. But clearly that didn't happen, or certainly was not acted upon. And so you had this this inner circle of the royal family infested by this man. And again, where are the questions for why that was?
People cover up so much for so long. You also mentioned Camilla Parker Bowles and Charles Windsor Mountbatten, where, well, you know, I'd have to forget the last names, it's not important. But what's important for me is my first career, I was a nursery nurse, and I was very lucky because I was working, I considered very lucky, in an aristocratic environment. I wasn't a royal nanny, I was a step down. So I was working for this beautiful family, absolutely loved them to death. They were wonderful people. And I had a great time with them and looked after their baby from 6 months old to just over a year and a half. And it was a great time. And I got on great with them. There was no like, oh, I was just myself, and people either take it or leave it. And if you take it, we're going to get on fine. But I don't want your bollocks, you know, your hierarchical bollocks. I'm not interested in that. Anyway, so I had a great time with them. So one time I'm in the kitchen, I'm making the baby's bottles up, and the husband and wife are sitting down, and the Daily Mail gets delivered, right? This is in the 90s, okay, in the 1990s. And it gets put on the table, and the father, the man, my boss, you know, the dad, he goes, oh my God, oh my God. And his wife's going, what? And he's going, look, oh my God. And I'm going, oh my God, what's happening? And the headline was, Charles is having an affair with Camilla. Now, we'd heard about it before, but there it was as a headline. And then this man I was working for, lovely, I don't want to say their names, I want to keep their privacy. He slammed his hand down, he's going, oh, I can't believe it, it's out. I'm like, oh my God. And I'm all caught up in the drama. And I said, is that true then? They're like, yes, Danny, it's true. And I said, how do you know? They said, well, we're in the royal circles. Of course we know. And I was like, wow. I said, why are you telling me? And then the dad went, who's going to believe you, Danny? You're the nanny. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
You had a point.
I met Princess Diana once. I was a presenter on the first breakfast TV program in Britain. It's called Breakfast Time. Back in the early 1980s, 1982, I think it started, something around that time. And because it was a big deal, because before then, I mean, television didn't start until mid morning or something. Breakfast television was absolutely new. And so there was a royal visit from Princess Diana, and I was introduced to her, and I was surprised how tall she was for a start. But I was not into any of this stuff at the time. I was just a TV presenter. But I looked in her eyes and I saw absolute terror. And it took me aback. I thought, whoa, what's all that about? Well, a lot later, I found out what it was about by the way she was being treated in the British royal family. And by the way, you know, for anyone that has never heard of necrophilia, it means sex with dead bodies. Well, that's why Jimmy Savile used to volunteer as a porter at the Leeds Hospital, because it gave him access to the mortuary. This is the level of depravity that we're talking about. And one of the hardest things, I mean, you must have found it too, but one of the hardest things to get across over the years has been the level of evil we're dealing with. Because people who don't interact with that level of evil as a matter of course, they somehow think from their own experience it can't exist, but it does.
That's so true. And the reason why people think it doesn't exist, because they don't have that insane, sick psychopathy that lives within them, that dark evil, that devoid of love and kindness and care. They're the inversion, embodied inversion of what the opposite to love is. And people say, I can't believe it. No, of course you can't. And you could never bring to mind the horror that these people do. But it's very difficult. And I think we've done a great job today in kind of dropping in and anchoring in. the reality of the world that we're living in, because it's time not to shy away from it. It is time to face it. I think there's a massive swathe of humanity that will get away with not truly understanding the depths of evil that we are all dealing with. But there are many of us on the front lines, yourself as a major figure, that have dedicated ourselves to exposing everything with evidence, with physical proof, with receipts, etc. What would you say is it inside of David Icke that drives him to sit 16 hours a day writing books? Where does this come from? What is the ultimate for you in why you're doing this?
Well, first of all, you get to understand how the world could be, because it's just a choice, perception. We can argue with each other and fight each other, or we can make a different choice and be in harmony with each other and respect each other's right to have a different opinion. It's just a choice. So you know how the world could be. You know how the world could be if we stop self-identifying as being a human and self-identifying just with the human body, which is a vehicle, and started to self-identify as the consciousness that's having the experience, the eternal level of consciousness. It would be an extraordinarily different world. But also, of course, you're motivated by the more that you uncover that's going on, and you uncover where it's planned to go, the more urgently you're seeking to warn people about it. And I will still be doing it the day I keel over, which won't be soon. I've got too much to do, and I wouldn't give them the satisfaction.
Good.
But the motivation comes from simply wanting to make a difference so that what's going on doesn't go on anymore. And I think you mentioned when Cathy was here about people that come in and then claim that information that they haven't researched but they've taken from other people and they claim to be their own and all that stuff. During this 36 years as it is now that I've been doing this, I've seen so many people come and go. They've been flavor of the month in this arena for a short while, maybe sometimes a bit longer, and then they disappear. And they say things like, I can't do it anymore. I'm getting this abuse or whatever. I'm going to spend more time with my family, as the politicians say. And I don't, I can see why they do that, because they're not fully committed. But when you are fully committed, it's very difficult to comprehend that you can know at least some level of the horrors that are going on, and that you can walk away from it. I do not understand it. I mean, once I realized what was going on in the early 1990s, there was absolutely no walking away from it, no matter what the scale of ridicule or abuse. Because if you do, you just let it go on unchallenged. And what's happened, of course, now is not least because a lot of people began to awaken to a different world as a result of the COVID hoax. But what I'm finding, I don't know whether you are, I'm pretty sure you will be, is that when I'm talking about the really far out stuff, when I was talking about it, at the time, you got instant ridicule and instant laughter. Ridiculous. What's he talking about? But what I'm finding now is it's the far out stuff that get the biggest interest. Mm-hmm. That people are beginning to break through these walls of programmed sense of normal and seeing that actually the world is not just a little bit not like they thought it was. It's absolutely nothing like they thought it was. And you know what I'm talking about in the roadmap is a scale of human control that goes way beyond your Donald Trumps and your people like that. I mean, they're just the gopher play out level. The real scale of human control is vast, and it goes into other dimensions of reality and a non-human force, and non-human entities. But what you find is the more you see the scale and panorama of human control, that's where you see what the answers are. Because if you're only seeing it on the political level, which so many people are, and I say there's been a hijack of the alternative media, particularly since COVID, which has regressed it really to focus only on the political level. And Trump's been a wonderful act to in support of that. But if you see it only at that level, then where are the answers? Voting for Trump? Oh no, he's not doing what he said he'd do. Well, we're going to vote for the Democrat this time. Oh, look at Starmer. I'm not voting for Labour next time. I'm going to vote for Reform. And then you find, oh, but they're basically doing the same. So how do I get rid of Party B now? Well, you have to vote for Party A again. And round and round and round and round and round and round it goes, while they move the direction of travel onwards to greater and greater dystopia. So you're not going to find answers in the myopia, because it's the myopia. You're going to find answers where it's coming from, and the scale and nature of human control beyond the obvious political level. That's where you're going to find the answers of how to bring this house of cards down, because it is a house of cards. Mm-hmm. And the people holding it up are us.
Mm-hmm. That is so true. You know, there's a meme, an image of all these monstrous masters sitting around in their black and white suits. They all look like the ancient decrepit Rothschilds. And they're sitting looking at the chessboard with pieces, but what's holding it up are men bent over on their bare backs holding up. You know, it's a very powerful image that many people have seen, and that's just right there, that speaks a billion words. And you mentioned earlier that we're told there's 8 billion people. I don't believe that, because I don't believe a single thing we're told. I don't believe anything NASA talks about or puts out. You know, so many things have been covered up over these years. I could go another yeah, exactly. I could go another 16 hours with you straight, because there's so much to talk about. I wanted to get into transgenderism.
Oh yeah, well I can get it. You know, I'm really looking forward to September and the event.
Yes.
Not least now you've listed the speakers there, you know, it will be something that will give people this panoramic range, which eventually fits together. You know, the reason I wrote the roadmap and called it the roadmap is because I was seeing people waking up to these different aspects of the panorama of control. And I just wanted to say, actually, what you're waking up to and what you're waking up to and what you're waking up to are actually all connected into this tapestry of control, a tapestry of control that we can pick apart if only we realize how it works.
Exactly. And thank you for saying that and seeing that. Every single time I put my conference on Galactic Spiritual Informers Connection, I hand select, and its guidance is always divine guidance. We've had incredible things happen. The last few conferences I've done, we've had literal spacecraft coming over at a certain time when we said it was going to happen, plus military craft. We've had a TR-3B, the triangular craft. We had a TR-9 fly over Eastbourne, a much more advanced TR-3B, military, reverse engineered, anti-gravity machine. just unbelievable, proving that the Earth militaries are working hand in hand with some of the extraterrestrials or people on the moon. You know, there's humans all over this galaxy and solar system, and it's a reality. And like you said earlier, people are more tapping into the consciousness of self now. They're expanding everything. They're realizing we didn't come here to work 9 to 5, you know, get to 70 and die. You know, the program, the voice to skull technology, you will die at 72, you know, oh my God. Yeah. Right? It's all bollocks. We know that. And so it's just so great that, you know, you're here. And you know what? I'm just going to brag. David Icke's on my channel. So that's, I'm so excited. My mum and dad are going to see this, right? They're going to go, oh my God, you just said bollocks. Sorry, mum, but I can't help it. I'm so excited. And do you know what else, David? People in life, you just got to be who you be. I don't know why people try and perform. Someone said to me the other day, you need to be wearing suit, jacket and ties. Balls. You know, there's no time for dramatics and postulating and being fake. Humans.
No, there's no need. There's no need. So often I see people who often have come into the alternative media since COVID, and they perform. They are doing it's like a stage show. It's like an act. And if you ever meet them privately, they're not the image that they present when they're performing. You know, no need to perform, no need to dress up. Let's just communicate the information that people need to hear. That's all we need to do. Yeah. And you know, it's like in television, you know, people have to wear ties and whatever, which is just a noose, a reverse noose around your neck. There's a way of dressing up formally and all that stuff. It's all diversion. Just open your mouth and speak your truth, and if it has validity, then it would eventually be shown to be so, and that's what's happening now. You know, the what's been said in the past and laughed at is now being, oh well, hold on, it seems to be happening. Because it is.
That's right. That's right. Amazing, amazing. Oh my God. Well, listen, a couple of things. You will be coming back before the event because we're going to bring every speaker together. Guy Anderson, JP, Tony Rodriguez, Cathy O'Brien. And so we can all meet each other and speak out to the world about what you're going to be talking about and how the conference is going to go. And then ideally, I know you are so stacked. It was great because Cathy O'Brien introduced the two of us, which I'm so happy about. And then once I got you on board for the conference, oh my God, you exploded again. You went to another stratospheric level. I was so happy I managed to get you before because now your diary is absolutely stacked. But I am going to try and bribe Jamie into giving me another one-to-one slot with you soon. See how I can do that. So we can do the trans, you know, the other elements that there's just not enough time to speak. But anyway, we'll bring this to a beautiful end for now. Tell us how we can get hold of you. Of course, I'll put all your details underneath, but just tell us how we can get hold of you.
Well, you can get me at davidicke.com. You can now, 5.5 years after I was banned, you can get me on YouTube, the David Icke channel. I put videos up regularly on that now. And iconic.com, where you can see that movie on the 12th and 13th for free without subscribing. So it's a really great movie and really needs the widest circulation.
Beautiful. David Icke, thank you so much. Please hold on for 1 second. And to the audience, oh my God, I know, right? David Icke's on my channel. Woohoo! Yeah, gonna pick it up because I'm excited and I don't care about showing it. And again, if you want to see him live on stage with Cathy O'Brien and the other best speakers on the planet, September 10th, 11th and 12th, I'll put details underneath. Until then, my name is Danny Henderson. As always, I do send love from my heart to yours, and we'll see you soon. Thank you, David Icke.
No problem. Pleasure.